Hey guys, how's it going? So today we are starting a new paper 2. Okay, so this one is interesting. I think most of you were looking forward to it. So the way that I'm going to do is I'm going to write first as if I'm just answering, as if I'm a student just answering the questions, and then afterwards I'll explain everything to you. Okay, so I advise you to stick around. I'll also be explaining how you actually write instead of just writing answers. What is it exactly that examiners are looking for, and also how you're supposed to structure your answers. Okay, so this one will be very useful. I understand that you'll be writing very soon, so very soon in December, I think you'll be writing exams. So this one will be very serious. So again, what I'll do is that I'll just write the stuff and then I'll explain to you afterwards. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so I'm done, and now we just have to discuss, the answers. I think this is a better way because I can concentrate on my handwriting better and then write better. I know that it's not perfect, but then I think this goes a long way. Okay, so the first question asks you, it says state. Okay, so state simply means write down. Okay, so this one it's a very important guideline. They want you to just state the difference, and you don't have to explain what those differences are. Okay, so whenever they say state, just write. You don't have to explain. Okay, so that's what it means. So state any two differences between inhaled and exhaled air. Okay, so inhaled air, you can think of this prefix here, inwards, that you're taking in air, and then exhaled air, you can think of this prefix here as exit. You're actually taking out air. Okay, so you have to say the differences there. So the difference is usually we talk of the two gases that change. The two gases that change, they are oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay, so you have to say how they change. Okay, if you want, you can even use numbers as well. Here I explain them qualitatively to say inhaled air contains more oxygen than exhaled air. Okay, just full stop. This one would warrant you the marks that would be required. So let's say they say any two differences, so this one is 1 mark, so they'll give you 1 mark. If you want to be more precise or more accurate with your answer, you can actually say inhaled air contains 21% oxygen. Okay, so this one is 21% oxygen. This one is more precise, and exhaled air contains only 14%. Okay, so you can actually use the actual percentages. So for oxygen it'd be 21, then for exhaled air it'd be 14. Okay, so when you do that, you actually enhance your answer. It's a better answer now because it's more specific. Someone can read into 21 and 14 and realize that there's actually more oxygen in inhaled air than in exhaled air. Then it's also the same thing for carbon dioxide. So for carbon dioxide in inhaled air, here you can mention that inhaled air contains 0.04%. This is simply the percentage of oxygen on average in the atmosphere, okay, or for carbon dioxide on average in the atmosphere. The percentage of carbon dioxide on average in the atmosphere is 0.04, and that's what we quote, okay. Then for exhaled air, this one would skip to 4%, okay. So this is a substantial increase. This is a very substantial increase, okay. So 100-fold. So it means that inhaled air, it's actually 100th in terms of the carbon dioxide content in there, okay. So the other thing here, they just say state two differences. So state these two differences. The more powerful answers would be comparing the oxygen and the carbon dioxide content, okay. But then if you strip, maybe you just know one there and then you forgot what other gas you're supposed to compare there. You can also include stuff like water vapor content. So water vapor, remember, in respiration you actually create water. So that water, some of it, it's actually in vapor form. So water vapor in exhaled air, because the body conditions as well, inside the body, the conditions, you are warm inside, okay, especially where some body processes will be taking place. It's called metabolism. So we'll be actually having a higher temperature there. That's why you have water vapor more in exhaled air. When you're just inhaling, it's still fine. It's still the oxygen or the air there. It will be just the temperature of the atmospheric of the ambience or the surrounding, okay. And the other one, obviously, it relates to the water vapor here. So generally exhaled air, it's warmer. So if you exhale, you can actually feel that your hand generally gets warmer, especially in winter. If you do that, sometimes people do that just to warm their hands, okay. So these are some of the answers that you can include. But then, just like I told you, these ones, this first two here, they're very powerful answers. These ones are the ones that you're supposed to start with. Okay, so the second part talks about transpiration. It says transpiration is the loss of water through plant leaves, okay. So here it's actually defined for you. When it's defined for you, it's a very good thing. When it's not defined for you, then sometimes you may have to define it yourself, or you may be asked to, okay. So it's very important to know what transpiration is. So on the first part, you're asked to state one advantage of transpiration to the plant. So usually transpiration, we usually talk of it in negative light, but sometimes it's only the extreme that we are worried about. Transpiration, it's only of its own. It's actually a very useful process, just like global warming. Global warming, it's a reason, it's a big reason why our Earth can sustain our life, okay. But then sometimes if you go excess now, if we help that global warming unnecessarily, it can have undesired consequences, okay. So to the extreme, it's not very useful. So it's the same thing with transpiration. It can be useful sometimes, it just doesn't have to be, but then it just doesn't have to be excessive, okay. So excessive transpiration, it will cause the disadvantages that we are going to discuss here. But then here again, it says state. State means just explain. You just write down, okay, the advantage. You don't have to explain it, okay. So for example, here transpiration helps create an osmotic gradient. So you're having water leave out, okay. So that means you're actually creating conditions for water to be taken up, maybe from the root system, okay. So and then also not only water but even minerals as well. Okay, so that's very useful. So it creates an osmotic gradient because water is leaving out, so water will have to gush in, and sometimes when the water gushes into the plant, it will actually take with itself some minerals and all that. Okay, so here the buzzwords were osmotic gradient. If you want, you can even say diffusion gradient. Osmosis is just a special type of diffusion. There is no difference. It's just osmosis. It's just a special type. It's inside diffusion. Okay, so and it aids in osmosis and diffusion. Diffusion will be the more general term here. So we'll be considering some other things as well. Okay, so this one you'd get some mark, and then also just look up how this reflects on active transport as well. So what's the difference between passive and active transport within a plant. Okay, so those are testing points as well. They may ask you to clarify on those two. Okay, so the second part, the second advantage, because I'm putting actually extra answers here so that you can remember at least one. The second advantage is that it helps the conditions for translocation. Translocation, this one's a buzzword. You're also expected to know it. Okay, translocation simply means the movement of nutrients within a plant. Okay, so translocation, even the products of photosynthesis, they're also translocated. So it means we are getting them from one point to another, so that because the respiration actually happens throughout the plant, so some parts will want the starch, the glucose that's generated there, so that they can also respire. Okay, so that's the other condition here. So on the disadvantages, transpiration, these ones you'll be familiar with them. Okay, so it results in water deficit. Deficit is simply means shortage. It's not even that much of a science term. You even use it as well in commercial subjects. Okay, so deficit simply means a shortage. So within the plant, you cause a shortage of water, and when it's excessive, it actually causes the wilting. Okay, so these are some of the words that you're supposed to include. Why? Because sometimes someone or your marker will be having some time crunch, so they actually have to get through this paper as soon as possible for the maximum number of students. Okay, so that maybe they're paid per rate or something. So they'll be looking for these buzzwords. If they see wilting, then they'll know that this is definitely a disadvantage. Okay, so it may also result in undesirable structural modification. So structural modification simply means if you remember the phloem, so all that the vascular bundle, it's responsible for structural integrity. So sometimes the plant is supposed to grow a certain way, but then when it doesn't have water, so it actually collapses of its own, so due to gravity, at least part. So that can deform the plant, so that maybe it's kind of leaning to one side, or maybe it's actually leaning back towards the ground or something like that. So those are structural modifications that are undesirable. Okay, but then this one was not a very powerful answer. The most powerful answer was this one, which included wilting. Okay, so that's it for this part. I'll catch you in the next video, where we'll be continuing with our paper. If you haven't subscribed yet, I advise you to, and also like and share. It helps others discover our channel. Okay, so this has been Yuba. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers.